Is Napkin Math. The famous Ron Barron, one of the biggest investors in SpaceX and Tesla, did a napkin math video, and we're going to talk about his napkin math. I'm having some fun with some graphics on the side here, but Ron Barron did some great napkin math. We're going to go through his video. We're going to do a video with Mark Cuban. We're going to do a video with we're going to do our AI stocks report, or just sort of cover what happened with AI stocks for the week. So a lot to talk about: Tesla, SpaceX, AI stuff, analyst reports on a couple of key AI stocks. So I hope we're all ready to get into that. Let's dive into Ron Barron's appearance on CNBC.
The company over the next 10 or 15 years is going to be worth 10 trillion, 20 trillion, 30 trillion, and I could be very low. Tesla.
So that was about SpaceX. So Ron Barron is saying that SpaceX could be worth 10, 20, 30 trillion dollars. Now, he's going to get more into that here, and I think as he said, he could be low. You'll hear what he says about Starlink in a minute. He pumps Starlink up pretty big, pretty fast, and he has really good napkin math on Starlink. But first, he's going to talk about Tesla.
When you're about all the things that they're doing right now is the time for Tesla. And I think that Tesla, I think it's going to be 2,000 or 2,500 over the next 10 years, 1.5 or 1 3/4 or a little bit more IPO, 10, 20, 30.
Okay, sorry. Let me skip back there for a second. He said that he anticipates Tesla being worth $2,500 a share in the next 5 years. I think this is very conservative. I think he tends to be more optimistic about this. If you do the robotaxi math, it goes up a lot faster once robotaxi expands. One of the things we don't know when Ron Barron speaks, Ron Barron has better knowledge of what's going on at Tesla and SpaceX than most of us. We don't know how much of it is him getting inside information and him just shooting off the cuff. He often says he doesn't really know. He'll actually say it in this video that when people think he knows something, he doesn't actually know anything about the merger. That's coming. He's going to talk about the SpaceX Tesla merger concept as well. So this was a great, I edited the crap out of this. So it's almost like hard for me to catch the breaks because I edited too much. But Ron Barron, very positive about Tesla, very positive about SpaceX. So here he's talking about SpaceX.
A little bit more IPO, 10, 20, 30 times that amount. You should try to figure out for your families how you can get to own some SpaceX. It will be the largest company on the planet. One of the directors said to me, Ron, if you're asked that question because they think you know and you don't. Okay,
he's about to talk about the merger. So he's saying most valuable company in the world. He sees SpaceX growing tremendously. As he said before, 10, 20, 30 trillion dollars in valuation. He's going to get into the Starlink napkin math soon. And you're going to see, when you see the Starlink napkin math, you can see why even 10 trillion, he's massively understating it. But what he did say is, you should be looking at how I can invest in SpaceX for my family's future. He believes this is a generational investment. He's already made tremendous money in his own investments in SpaceX. He's one of the biggest outside investors in SpaceX through his fund, Barron Capital. And he's a huge investor in, how are we doing, by the way? Everybody hear me okay? Everything going okay? The chat? Yeah, okay. I can never tell. So the chat stopped. I don't know if that means something. So let's keep going with Ron Barron. He's going to talk about this SpaceX Tesla merger prospect now.
One of the directors said to me, Ron, if you're asked that question because they think you know and you don't know anything, and I really don't know anything, just say you don't know. So I don't know. I'm not betting on that. They're able to accomplish a lot there.
He doesn't know. He said, I'm not betting on that. There's so many influencers. I want to touch on this. There's so many influencers in the Tesla community in particular. You don't see this in the SpaceX community. There's so many influencers in the Tesla community saying, oh, Tesla and SpaceX are going to merge. They're arguing over they're arguing over the terms of a merger that hasn't been announced, when they haven't even announced the terms of the IPO. The SpaceX IPO hasn't happened yet. And I'm seeing people talking about whether they're going to invest in the SpaceX IPO. Like, how do you know? They haven't released the documents. You don't know when the IPO is going to be. You don't know what your financial situation is going to be at the time. So it's kind of interesting to see that. But Ron Barron, you heard him say it. Let me flip back and we'll see if you can hear him say it again.
Is how you can get to own some SpaceX. It will be the largest company on the planet. One of the directors said to me, Ron, if you're asked that question because they think you know and you don't know anything, and I really don't know anything, just say you don't know. So I don't know. I'm not betting on that. If they're able to
I'm not betting on that. And he talks about why a little bit.
don't know anything, just say you don't know. So I don't know. I'm not betting on that. If they're able to accomplish a lot the way they are structured right now, pluses and minuses, I think there's good reasons why you should do it and good reasons why you shouldn't do it. And whatever he decides is the best thing to do, when you're worth trillions of dollars ultimately for him, he's not doing this to make as much money as he can. He's doing this because he has some feeling about the planet. Maybe it makes it easier to operate, which is true, I'm sure. But then you get a different valuation on the company, which is also true. So I don't know what he's going to do. But whatever he does, I'm sure there will be good rationale for it. And whatever he does, it's very unlikely that I would say it's not a good idea. How do I know?
So just to be clear, Ron Barron is saying there's good reasons to merge. There's good reasons not to merge. He wouldn't bet on them doing it. If Elon decides they need to do it, he thinks Elon will have a good reason. A critical point that I just feel like I see so many people when they're talking about this prospect of a SpaceX Tesla merger saying, well, Elon's doing this to increase his control. Elon's doing this to make more money. But you just said, no, he's not doing anything to make money. He has enough money. He has goals for humanity that he thinks he can achieve by doing certain things. And he's known Elon better than most of us, longer than most of us. He's been investing in, I think, Tesla since 2014, SpaceX since 2017. He knows this stuff better than most of us, and he knows Elon better than most of us. He's not doing it for money. Elon is not motivated by money. Elon has missions, get us to Mars, uh, make life better for humanity, amazing abundance, safe, honest AI. 14 forces merging will just bring out the politicians in the US and the EU. I think that's one of the AOSC and Bernie will not be happy. I think that's one of the reasons why not. That there's so much it's funny, one of my friends said, well, there's Elon was talked about in the earnings call. He talked about the difficulty of doing Terafab because you have to get the boards on board of what you're doing because it's an intercompany thing. And so there's a lot of paperwork. It's like, you think there isn't a lot of paperwork in a merger? Like, the paperwork involved in the merger is much worse than the paperwork in collaborating on Terafab. It's not even funny. Let's clean up the environment on Earth and let's go and then go to Mars. So we'll keep doing both. They don't have to be one then the other. We're gonna do them both. Um, so I think Ron Barron's point is just, look, we don't know what he's going to do. The idea that people know what Elon's going to do, and then that the thing that bothers me the most is when people attribute, secret motives to Elon, that he's trying to, get more power, get more money. Like, that's not Elon. But yes, I agree 100% that the political hassles of merging, it's not just EU and Europe, EU and the US politicians. Like, what about China? How is China going to react to the largest car factory in China being owned by an American defense contractor that spies on them? They might not like that. That's an issue. That's a problem. I think Tesla has tremendous potential to operate a very successful robotaxi network in China. And if they merge with SpaceX, that might be complicated. So there's many, many problems with a merger. And Ron Barron said if he does it, he does it. He'll have good reasons, and he'll almost certainly support whatever Elon wants to do. Let's keep going though.
they're getting you to space, and the things they're doing in space are different than anything anyone can do on this planet. It's really nice that the stock is going to be priced higher when they get public. I'm buying, so at the IPO price, I've got an order for $1 billion. I'm doing it.
So this is a guy who already owns like a crazy amount of SpaceX stock, and he has an order to buy $1 billion more. So, he has information. He's an existing shareholder, so he has information we don't have from documents that are sent to existing shareholders that we don't get. He gets stuff we don't get, so he knows stuff we don't know. I don't think when I hear him talk that he says anything really that stands out from what we don't know, but he knows more about, like, what's the capital structure of SpaceX that we don't know that. You know, what are the financials inside SpaceX? We don't know. We all have the sense of what Starlink is, what the AI satellites in space are going to be. I don't think anybody has an advantage on knowing about that. Oh, hello, Philip from Boca Raton. Nice. Haven't been in Boca Raton in a long time now, have I? Um, so I just think that's the fact that Ron Barron, he said, I think he said he doesn't know if the order will be filled. There's going to be a lot of demand for that IPO, and he doesn't know how much of it he'll get. But he's buying on the IPO. Now, I'm not. I haven't made a decision to buy on the IPO. I'm going to wait till I see the IPO documents. I'm not making decisions on a SpaceX Tesla merger. I don't know that there's going to be one, and I'll make that decision when I see documents. In the old days, we said tubular in contrast to crazy. Everything neat was tubular. I remember tubular. Wasn't that like Moon Unit Zappa said that in the Valley Girl video, the Valley Girl song?
Believe deeply that this company is a major game changer. We're talking about infrastructure. So Starlink, they are going to be the internet for the entire planet. The internet for the entire planet. Nobody can do this except for them. So Starlink alone, I think, can be
The internet for the entire planet. I think he's going to go in more depth in that in a minute. He's about to do his Starlink napkin math, so I want you guys to hear that.
the entire planet. The internet for the entire planet. Nobody can do this except for them. So Starlink alone, I think, can be worth 14, 15 trillion dollars. Starlink alone. They have 10,000 satellites now. They're on their way to 20,000. They have 9 million customers last year. They have 15 million this year. They're going to grow 50% a year. They could have 300 million customers in 10 years. Then they got enterprise, then they got the government, and there's 8 billion people on the planet. 3 billion don't have the internet. Can't compete with a guy who has all those satellites up there already and all those customers and already serving. And he's going to be like a virtual network. And sooner or later, one of these big telcos is going to sell them access to the city. If you have more than 50% of the people doing business with you on the internet, you are the internet. I think the opportunity is somewhere around $1 trillion of annual revenues for him, maybe making 70, 80% profit margin. That could
$1 trillion in annual revenue, 70 or 80% margin. Now that, ladies and gentlemen, that is napkin math. That is Ron Barron. So what did he do? He said, we get to 300 million customers. Then you add enterprise. That's customers. That's like you and me. Then you add government, enterprise. We got all the airlines starting to use Starlink, except for Delta, of course. All these good things happening. And 70, 80% margin. So 14 forces, which is all the reason there will be competitors to Starlink. Let me address that. There's a massive first mover advantage for Starlink. So here's the problem. Starlink has lower launch costs. Starlink has lower satellite costs. Starlink will be up first. Starlink will have all the customers. Starlink will be providing great service. If you are second in this market, he actually addressed it. I cut it out of the video, but he actually addressed Jeff Bezos because the guy asked him about Bezos and whatever Bezos's satellite Kuiper or something like that. And he said, he'll be niche. You can't compete with Elon. And here's the problem. They're going to have the entire market before you get your satellites up. Your costs are going to be higher. You can't compete on price because your costs are going to be higher. So how do you how do you meaningfully compete with Starlink in that market? That's the problem. I've talked about this before in other videos. There's this thing called first mover advantage, and sometimes it matters and sometimes it doesn't. And what SpaceX does is they are aggressive on improving the technology. They are aggressive on managing cost. If they are able to keep costs down, and thank you, Mark, for managing the chat. If they are able to keep costs down and drive costs lower and lower and lower, and they're able to improve quality and drive quality higher and higher and higher, how does anybody compete with that? And think about how much money do you have to invest? This is the first mover advantage critical point. All right, SpaceX has got their satellite network up. How much money do you have to invest to get your satellite network up? Are you launching it on SpaceX satellites and they're getting margin on your launches? Are you launching it on your own on your own rockets? Are you launching it on SpaceX rockets and they're getting margin from that? And they will provide you launch. Is Bezos going to launch them on Blue Origin? Is his launch cost going to be lower than SpaceX launch cost? But let's say you invest $100 billion to get your satellite network up. What's your return on investment? You're number two in a market. You can't make large margins because you got to compete with SpaceX with Starlink on prices. So I don't, they compete by getting national and local governments to protect local interest. Who is India going to compete? And then they're going to get the Indian market, and SpaceX gives up the Indian. Starlink doesn't get the Indian market. Like China, right? China's not going to buy Starlink apparently. Maybe they will. I don't know. So I think that that's unlikely that there will be meaningful competition for Starlink. I don't want to say ever, but in the short to medium term, 10 plus years, your cost to build your network out is so high that no one's going to invest in you because you're not going to be able to deliver the return on the investment to justify putting. Where are you going to get 100 billion? Even Bezos, where are you going to get your $100 billion to launch this network of satellites? Are you going to have 20,000 satellites in space? If you don't have the quality because you need the high volume of satellites to be able to provide connectivity all the time. Coscern says, "Hi Warren, can you get your thoughts on Elon stating he will reward us long-term shareholders when any of the companies go public? Do you think he will grant us an opportunity to buy SpaceX?" There are rumors about that. I think Elon says a lot of things that he wants to do, and they're not always possible. Um, it may be that they reserve. I think they're expecting to issue about $70 billion in shares to the public. It might be they reserve $10 billion for Tesla shareholders to buy in. I don't know. My gut is that it's a nice idea and he wants to do it, and it will fall by the wayside as just not practical to do. And my personal opinion, if like I'll just say this too, if you believe that there's going to be a SpaceX Tesla merger in the future, why would you sell Tesla stock to buy SpaceX stock now when there's a significant chance you'll get a premium later? That doesn't make any sense to me. I can say there's a chance that I will sell Tesla stock to buy SpaceX stock. 100% chance I will do that. I'm not saying 100% I will do it. I'm saying 100% there is a chance that I will make that decision after I see the IPO documents. And if Tesla shareholders get a special privilege or opportunity, then sure, I'm more likely to do it. But are we getting a discount? I don't think so. The purpose of the IPO isn't to give Tesla shareholders a discount. The purpose of the IPO is to raise money for SpaceX so they have the money to build Terrafab and build out Starship. That's the purpose of the IPO. They need the money to be able to build the things they need to build. All right, let's keep going with Ron Barron. Sorry about that.
Be worth 14, 15 trillion dollars alone, just Starlink. His advantage is he innovates faster than anyone else. So the culture innovate fast and perform and do things better than other people. And then when they look at how much things cost, he knows how much everything costs. And if he's not being charged the right amount, and if they're making too much of a profit, then he's going to do it himself. They're Terrafab.
So he's about to talk about Terrafab. Retired and says, "What are my thoughts on FLTCF and Starlink?" I don't know what FLTCF is, so I can't comment on that. So I can't really answer. If you can tell me what FLTCF is in a next comment, then I'll address it. But let me keep going here. He's going to talk about Terrafab. He's talking about Elon being very careful on costs, and when somebody's charging him too much margin, then Elon decides he's going to go in. We'll do it ourselves, vertical integration.
And if he's not being charged the right amount, and if they're making too much of a profit, then he's going to do it himself. They're Terrafab. So he needs to have 50 times the number of chips, the number of compute that's available right now. 50 times. So he goes to TSMC and he goes to Samsung. They got great businesses. So why are they going to take a big risk building a factory they don't know that he's got this huge demand for? He can't get enough chips. So he's going to build a factory called Terrafab. The chips that we're buying from Nvidia, he'll never stop buying them, but the chips he buys from Nvidia, he uses 3% of what Nvidia provides. 3%. So he says, gee, and they make an 80% profit margin. So,
I think he's saying that Elon's companies get access to 3% of Nvidia's output. Right? He has TSMC making AI4, Samsung making AI4. I think AI5 is Samsung and TSMC. So he has these fabs making chips. but he wants them to commit to making 50 times as many chips as the world makes today. He wants to make a crazy, because what does he need? He needs 100 million chips for a year for Optimus. Optimus is going to have a chip. Every Optimus, 100 million chips, 100 million. He's already got the plant. The factory line started to be built out in Fremont for the million unit Optimus line. They've already laid out where the factory is going to go in Texas for the 10 million unit Optimus line, and long term, he's going to have a 100 million unit a year Optimus factory. So he needs 100 million chips a year. Then you need, if you're going to do 20 million cybercabs a year, let's say, or 20 million vehicles to be robo-taxis, well, then you need 40 million chips. That's 140 million chips. And then he wants to launch all these AI satellites in space. Well, that's a lot of chips. And then he's going to need training compute on the ground. And he's going to need inference compute on the ground. He's got a lot of demand for chips. And TSMC, Samsung, the fabs won't make enough chips. Mark Potocnik says Elon pledged prioritize long-term Tesla shareholders for his company's IPOs. Loyalty deserves loyalty. He said it. That doesn't mean he's going to be able to execute it. That doesn't mean it's going to be a priority for him. And then when he goes to whoever manages the IPO and they say, that's really difficult to do, it's not worth doing, here's what we should do instead, and they give him some other option that doesn't really give you what you want. I just think Tesla shareholders want stuff that they can't get. Supply Starlink RF and microwave systems. I don't know if that relates to retired. I don't know if that relates to your FLTCF thing or not. Okay, let's keep going. Let me backtrack a little bit. The audio starts after I hit play.
Of what Nvidia provides, 3%. So he says, gee, and they make an 80% profit margin. So gee, I can do that. I'm a good manufacturer. And what I can do is I have ideas on how we can make them faster, cheaper, simpler, and I can do that. And when he does that, he's going to build this facility. He's going to make the chips at a fraction of what's going to cost to make 50 times as many as the whole world is producing. So it's Starlink, it's Starship, it's Compute AI. Grok is like Anthropic. And so Anthropic.
So just on his case for Terafab, if you're paying 80% margin to Nvidia, and they won't make you enough chips, and you make your own chips, and you save that 80% margin, right? And I think that Elon is going to go for additional margin beyond it, because he's not just cutting Nvidia out there, he's cutting out the fab. The fab's another 50, 60% margin. Maybe they can vertically integrate some of the other things that fabs do and cut out some other margin there, and you go from $40,000 a chip to $2,000 a chip. I think I worked out maybe they get the $40,000 down to $3,500. So they save 90% of the cost of the chips, and they make 50 times as many chips. Costs a lot of money. It still costs a lot of money, right? Because you're making 50 times as many, but your cost per chip is a lot lower. And now your inference computes go down. This is my big thing on AI stocks is inference compute is everything. And so if you can drive down your cost of inference compute, you can do everything. You can do a lot. William says, how will tokenization affect Tesla SpaceX? Is Tesla already implementing tokenization? How? Thank you. I don't know what you mean by tokenization. My channel is now the AI stocks report, and in the AI world, tokens are a measure of compute. So I think you're referring to tokenization as something to do with share ownership of. I don't know if you're talking about fractionalization of holding stock, or you're talking about something else. Retired. I don't have time to look things up while I'm doing a live stream. I don't think you understand how this works. I'm not going to go look something up while we're doing a live stream. So yeah, all right. So I just wanted to clarify that. Let's get back to Ron Barron. He's moving on from Terafab now to talk about the SpaceX IPO a little bit more, what's going on inside SpaceX.
So it's Starlink, it's Starship, it's Compute AI. Grok is like Anthropic. And so Anthropic invested in compute, and they've done amazing. They've grown from $9 billion of annualized revenues to $40 billion in 4 or 5 months. $9 billion to $45 billion. The opportunity is something like $27 trillion a year. And
Ron Barron is saying the opportunity for the foundation model business is $27 trillion a year. and Anthropic has grown great, but they're only at 40 billion. The opportunities in AI are so monstrously huge. Imagine wanting to know his thoughts about something and not explaining your question further. Yeah, that's just this. This is the internet, folks. This is YouTube. This is live chats.
5 months, 9 billion to 45 billion. The opportunity is something like 27 trillion a year, and they're at 45 billion. And Grok is the same thing. Grok, what Elon thought, is what we need is compute. That's the limiting factor, compute. So he invested in compute. The other guys all invested in software. Now they've just announced a deal. Anthropic is going to use the compute that we've built in Memphis. We build it cheaper, faster, and better than anyone else. Super fast. That's us. So the idea about betting against someone, you never bet against the guy with superpowers who would never give up. The company.
You never bet against a guy with superpowers who never gives up. That's what he thinks of Elon Musk. You'll see all these people trashing Elon all over the internet, everywhere, in the media, wherever. Um, it just never ends. And here's a guy who knows him better than anybody else. Hi, Jim. Thank you for joining. Grok says tokenization boosts Tesla SpaceX liquidity via 24/7 trading and fractional. I think fractional ownership is already available through some brokers like Robinhood. So I don't think Tesla needs to do it or SpaceX needs to do it. You can already do it through a broker like I'm not sure about this. I've never looked into it myself, but I believe that that's out there. Okay, so that was Ron Barron. If you're not familiar with him, he's the head of Barron Capital. He's been investing for decades. He started buying Tesla stock, I think, in 2014, SpaceX in 2017. He's made something like, I think on something like a $50 million investment, he's made like $55 billion investing in Tesla and SpaceX. And he's just getting started. So, and it's not him personally, it's his fund. He owns a chunk of it. There's somewhere else in this video where he says he's never selling himself. So he hasn't sold. He sold stock from his fund or for his clients, but he's never sold his own stock, and he's got an order in to buy more. B Nice says it's like I'm listening to a foreign language. What questions do you have? I don't know if you're referring to tokenization and all that. If you're referring to something I'm talking about, so let me know. Let me know what you mean. Elon's superpowers to haters is confusion, to supporters is delivering amazing things late. Yeah, turning the impossible into late, of course. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we got Mark Cuban up. So Mark Cuban's good. This is going to be more about AI. This is not about Tesla and SpaceX.
OpenAI recently announced that they had raised $110 billion. They're planning to spend more than $1 trillion in infrastructure.
They'll never get it. Yeah, they're just shitting away that money. It's not that AI is not going.
So Mark Cuban, and I don't disagree with the conclusion. I don't agree with his reasoning. I think Mark. I hate that this. I think nothing I could say would make Mark Cuban madder than saying I think he's a lot like Trump. Think about it. Successful in business, but more successful in reality TV. Right? Owned a sports team. Trump owned a sports team. And Mark Cuban has a tendency to shoot his mouth off about stuff he doesn't really know. He's an internet guy, right? He started off as an internet guy, but I think he is over his skis on this one. He's a little out beyond his knowledge on this one. But I think it's worthwhile to hear what he said at the start to understand his position on OpenAI in particular. I'm not sure he's wrong.
OpenAI recently announced that they had raised $110 billion. They're planning to spend more than $1 trillion in infrastructure.
They'll never get it. Yeah, they're just shitting away that money. It's not that AI is not going to work, but look at Apple, right? They haven't spent next to anything, but they've got a foundation where they can just plug and play into their devices, right? We're going to spend $1 trillion because we need all this data center capacity. The ability to process is going to get faster, cheaper, and it's going to happen fast.
Okay. This is something. So, I pivoted to talking about AI stocks and AI companies and understanding what's going on in the world of AI. And I think he's thinking linearly about demand. He's thinking linearly about supply, which is accurate. and he's thinking linearly about demand, and he's wrong. I think he's wrong. Like that, I may be wrong. I see demand for AI inference growing crazy, exponential. Jensen Huang says it. Elon pretty clearly says it. The demand for AI, and I'm going to give you guys my analogy. I think I have this very pretty analogy that might end up being stupid. But think of artificial intelligence as an ocean, okay? And most people are not at the beach yet. Personally, I am knee deep in the water. I'm building some apps for Thai language and Japanese language for English speaking people to learn Thai and learn Japanese, flashcard apps and reader apps. I'm using Codex and Grok and a couple of, and to some extent Claude, very little, but mainly Codex and Grok to build my apps. And when I prepare my AI stocks report stuff, like uh, the visuals that you see, the graphics that I show you, um, I used AI to help. I use AI to help research. It's all me, right? It's not. I'm not feeding you. I mean, I'll give you the buzz that they say, and then I'll tell you what I think. But this graphic was probably generated by ChatGPT or Grok. I don't remember. Um, I don't think I generated that one on my own. And the clips at the very beginning of this video that were playing vertically, those were generated by Grok Imagine. Right? I'm using little bits and pieces of AI here and there, um, but helping me plan. How just having a conversation with what should my videos be like. So I use AI extensively, and I'm only knee deep. Like I'm not. I just downloaded my first agent software Hermes. I have so I'm knee deep. There's most 90+% of the earth is not at the beach. There's some people who've asked ChatGPT a question. They've had, brief conversations with AIs. I'm having 10 conversations a day with Grok and ChatGPT, if not more. Um, but I have friends who are swimming. I have friends who are building ships in the ocean, right? And 5, 10 years from now, we're all going to be building ships in the ocean. Like this, the extent to which demand for AI is going to grow is mind blowing. And Elon calls it a supersonic tsunami, and a lot of people get it, a lot of people don't. And this is one of those moments where, my opinion, Mark Cuban doesn't get it because they are building more data centers, right? So if you believe that demand is linear and supply is linear, and you're just building a lot of data centers, and the demand isn't going to go, if you don't think that demand is there, then they're building too many data centers, and the value of the data centers is going to go down, right? Because the demand isn't there to support the supply. If you believe that demand is going to be if demand is growing faster than supply, then the price of inference is going to go up, not down. This is a monster issue in understanding what's going on in AI. Do you think demand is going to rise faster than supply, or do you think supply is going to rise faster than demand? And I don't know. I have my opinion. Mark Cuban has his opinion. I'm going to, no, my tomorrow's video, I was going to put it in today's video. I'm going to put it in tomorrow's video. Chamath chimed in on this. I think Chamath is not always right, but Cuban's always the smartest guy in a room full of dumb people. That's funny. 14.4, sorry, just getting back to the point on OpenAI. 14.4 says, I thought the numbers OpenAI claimed all have a big asterisk next to them. OpenAI made some claims. They said this is what we're going to spend. Can they get the money? You're going to spend $1 trillion. You got to get $1 trillion to spend it. Can they get access to that kind of money? Not clear. But anyway, I think he has some good points. Let's go on with Mark Cuban. Let's hear more of what he has to say.
The ability to process is going to get faster, cheaper, and it's going to happen faster and quicker than people expect. A lot of the numbers that they're throwing out there aren't going to come to fruition, which is why I say they're full of shit. It's not going to happen. We don't know.
So basically what you're hearing is Mark Cuban doubts the demand. He doubts the demand side. He doesn't think it's going to happen. I think he's a little bit of Paul Krugman saying that, the internet will have no more impact on society than the fax machine. If you remember that when Paul Krugman, Nobel Prize winning economist, doubted the impact of the internet. And there's lots of, smart people back in the day who thought the internet wouldn't turn into very much. And this is a guy who made his money on the internet, right? His first success was on the internet before he became a reality TV star. So he doesn't say it explicitly, but it sounds like what he's saying is the demand isn't going to be there. And I think he's completely wrong. And I don't know where he gets it from. I don't think he explains why he thinks the demand isn't going to be there because I don't know if he's contextualized it in that way. Ooh, that was a good word, contextualize.
which is why I say they're full of shit. It's not going to happen. We don't know if the business of foundational models, the ChatGPTs, Gemini, Grok, Claude, etc., is going to be like the streaming industry, where there's one leader and a bunch of players that make money, or some that make money at least, or search, where there's effectively one company. They need.
So that's a pretty good point. I give him credit. That's a solid point. What is the future for foundation models? Right now, you have 4 frontier models. You have OpenAI's ChatGPT. You have Anthropic's Claude. You have xAI's Grok, and you have Gemini's Google's Gemini. You have a bunch of open models, open source models in China. You have some other models that are out there. Meta has its own models, Llama, but the 4 frontier models are pretty clearly ahead of everyone else. And they are accelerating and they're investing and improving their models. And there's this challenge, and I think he hit on this. Maybe I think it was Ron Barron hit on this point. Those guys invested in software. Elon invested in hardware. Now Elon's investing a lot in software too. But OpenAI isn't building their own compute. Anthropic is not building their own compute. They're buying compute from others. If you can, and this is Google's advantage in the space as well. Google has its own frontier model. It has its own compute. It has its own chips. Right? They're using their own chips for their compute. Right now, Elon has his own frontier model. He has his own compute, but he's buying his AI compute for xAI at least, and to some extent for Tesla's compute. He's buying a lot of that from Nvidia. As he scales AI5 is going to be, and then AI6 are going to be the inference chips for his data centers, right? And that he's going to save on margin from Nvidia. He'll be more in Google's camp. Google's paying Broadcom, by the way, some of the margin that Elon's paying Nvidia. So that, but they're all paying less than OpenAI and Anthropic are paying for it. So you have this, the cost structure favors Elon's companies and Google over OpenAI and Anthropic. But when you head down the road, okay, is it a world where one company just has the best intelligence? Like right now, it looks like Claude is killing it on code. I personally use Codex and think Codex is really good, and I use Grok 4.30. There's a new Grok coding tool out there that I haven't used yet. And I think there's this issue of like, do you need the best model? Like right now, for my coding work, most of the models are pretty much all the models are good enough. They're not, and especially if I can use one model and then one model fails and I can use another model to clean it up. And I envision a world. This is a stretch here. This is like Warren stretching to claim he understands something he doesn't understand. But I envision a world where you have a super intelligent AI that makes the high level decisions. Okay, what compute do we need to do what? Let's use our least expensive model to do those tasks. Let's use our medium expensive model to do these tasks. And then I'll do the really hard stuff. And it's probably, multiple layers of intelligence with multiple levels of cost per compute. But even with that, my picture is we're going to 10x the number of data centers. And the compute is going to get 10x more efficient. So that's a 100x improvement on the supply side. But if the demand side goes up 1000x, it's not enough. And I think he sees the demand as linear. He doesn't. You tell me if you're hearing him differently than I'm hearing him. I think he thinks the demand is linear. My issue with widespread adoption of AI is there's no killer app. Coding is already a killer app. Video generation will be a killer app. I hate to say this, but if you can imagine, if you know men, and you can imagine an AI app that will generate video on demand, adult entertainment, there's a killer app. Just video generation in general, real-time video generation in general is already going to be a killer app. You think the people like the companions on Grok now? Imagine whether it's Grok or somebody else offers, full-on adult entertainment, real-time, much smoother than what Ani is. It's crazy. The thing is, there's no killer app yet. We never see the killer apps coming, but they always come. And that's going to be a big driver of demand too. 1,000 PS by the end of this year. I don't know what PS means. $1,000 PS. Cuban has the same disease I've seen in my real estate clients. Yeah. Stephen Mitchell, I haven't written a line of code in a year. Everything I do at work is Codex and Claude Code. I'm no AI expert. AI is the Iron Man suit I put on in the morning. Yeah, so I'm not a coder. Like I've been writing code off and on since literally the mid 1970s on a Commodore 4K PET. And I took a Python class, 15 years ago, whatever. And I've done a lot of HTML and PHP, and I coded my own, WordPress website or whatever. But I'm not a coder. I'm not a real programmer. I'm not a software engineer, and I'm building apps because that's how awesome AI is. And this is my advice to anybody, by the way. You think you don't have a use for it? Start having a conversation with Grok, ChatGPT, Claude, whoever, and say, I think I should build an app. What should I build? And just have a conversation back and forth. What could I use AI to build? And if you have that conversation once a day, once a week for 10 weeks, you'll figure out something you want to build, and you'll figure out you can do it. And it'll blow you away, because it blows me away. I literally I'm using apps I built to help me learn Thai and Japanese. I'm using AI to help me I had almost lost the passion for making videos. And then I had conversations and thoughts and conversations with ChatGPT and Grok, primarily Grok. And I came upon the idea of, hey, let me do an AI stocks report, and talked it through with them. And I'm constantly shaping how I do the AI stocks report. And I think it's helping. So more states and countries will force age verification on any such service. And so far, many of these services choose not to try. It's called a VPN. Yeah. I mean, you're right. But I think that I'm not saying the adult entertainment app will happen, but if you look at the history of technology, you really think it's not going to happen? Really? I literally, it's one of the conversations I had with, I think it was with Grok, was could I build that myself? And the answer, by the way, was the tech isn't there yet. Vera Rubin is coming. The Nvidia Vera and Rubin chip will be delivering real time video generation within 100 milliseconds, something like that. So less, 1/10 of a second. But that'll probably be too expensive. So you go 2-3 years out from Vera Rubin going to volume, and it'll be cheap, and there'll be open source models that'll do it. Um, Thank you, Wildcat. So let's keep going with Mark Cuban. I'm sorry. Let's go back to
one company. They need to raise all the money, go all in, and spend everything they can, kiss all the rings they need to kiss around the world in hopes of being the one. It's going to be very difficult.
So getting back to his point, he sees, is there one company that builds the best model that just dominates the market? And to me, the only way that works is if they also acquire enough inference. Because if the demand, this is my take on the market, is different than his take on the market. I think everyone can win. If the demand is so great that no one can supply enough inference to meet all the demand, then everyone wins, because there's demand out there that is just impossible to serve, right? And everyone gets to serve some of it. So if you can imagine, if your supply increases 100x, and two other models, they increase their supply of intelligence, of AI tokens, whatever you want to call it, 100x, and the demand increases 1,000x. Even if Grok increases 1,000x, that's still not enough, because Grok isn't 100% of the market. And I think it may be 10,000x increase in demand. Like the size of the demand is crazy. So it can be that everyone wins, but some win more than others. I think now look, my picture of the market could be wrong. If the demand for AI grows linearly and the supply grows linearly, then he may have a point. If somebody has a much better model and they have sufficient inference, and they can capture all the demand, and then all the excess inference out there goes to waste, and all these companies that invested in inference lose. But if I'm right and the demand goes crazy, and I'm not the only, like some people are saying the demand's going to go crazy, some people say it isn't. If the demand goes crazy, then you can't build enough inference. You can't build enough compute, and everyone's model, like, you could have, if you have the best model, but you don't have the inference compute to keep up, then other people will succeed too. And think about this, and I'm going back now, right? 1984, Macintosh comes out. something like 1990 or 1987 or something like that, Windows comes out. Macintosh was clearly superior to MS-DOS and Windows. Clearly superior. But Windows and Microsoft got monster market share. Apple never got the market share. You can have the best UX, you can have the best computer, you can have the best, in all kinds of ways. The other guy can win. The other guy can get more market share. That's just the way it is. Thank you, Samir. Okay, let's keep going with Mark Cuban.
Hopes of being the one. It's going to be very difficult, but I don't think it's going to pay off the way they expect. If you don't go all in like that, you can't keep on raising money, because as it zigs and zags and you don't know where it's all going to go, if you're not still raising money, you're in deeper trouble, because you don't know if you're not the winner, then you've got problems. Now,
So again, his picture is, he understands why everybody's investing so much, because you want to, just like if there was a race to be the winner in search, and you get to win and you get to be Google and you get to be one of the largest companies in the world, then yeah, you invest tens of billions of dollars to become a multi-trillion-dollar company. So if you think it's got a $27 trillion market coming and you have to invest $1 trillion and then you don't get it, well, at least you took your shot. If you don't take your shot, you don't get it. The prize is so big that it's worth taking the risk. That's the story he's telling. And I think he's wrong. I think he's wrong. I think the demand will grow so fast that he's wrong. I think he does not see the demand growing the way I see it growing, and most likely Mark Cuban has not used AI to code. If you use AI to code, like you have conversations with AI, it's really cool, right? If you start having AI help you do things, I want to do this. How can I do this? Have it talk you through how to do. Like I literally had Gemini convincing me that I could build the pod car prototype myself with outside help occasionally. Like I didn't need to hire an engineer. I just let Gemini be the engineer, and we go step by step through building a prototype. And I might actually persuade me enough that I might do it next year. So I think, and that's one thing. That's like you can even use AI to help you do real world stuff. But if you want to build software, anybody you talk to, one of my old friends in Florida has got a software company. It's insane. The productivity gain if you embrace AI. Talk to Farzad. Farzad is using AI like crazy. The productivity gain is mind blowing. And I'm going to start using Hermes, agentic AI, shortly. My flashcard apps require building what's called a canonical flashcard stack. This is the way we've come to. And so we're going to need to build like 5,000, 10,000 vocabulary word flashcards for the Thai app and the Japanese app each. And when I use an LLM to generate, a set of cards, it'll usually only do about 20, maybe 30, 40, 50 before it just craps out and can't do that many. So if I have an agent that just does 20 at a time and just keeps repeating, and it repeats it 50 times, I have 1,000. If it repeats it 500 times, I have 10,000. So that's my plan with Hermes. So I'm about to get, maybe hip deep in the ocean with AI. We'll see. I think what I'm doing here with the AI stocks report has been taking a lot of my time. So I haven't been worked on my apps much. I'm hoping I get my rhythm down for doing these reports, and then I'm able to focus on doing the flashcard apps and then the reader apps again. But it's shocking how productive I've become, how productive I feel I am. And I mean, I use ChatGPT and Grok as a strength coach, as a cardio fitness and strength fitness coach, and they're phenomenal. They're phenomenal. The stock price will depend greatly on robotaxi. We all know. I'd like the slow rollout, safety first. The robotaxi crash report Tesla recently released looked very promising. 100%. Mark Cuban is no more right in his predictions than rolling dice. He's been wrong about many things. So what was the quote I heard? I think Elon laughed at this one, that Michael Burry has been predicting a stock market crash, and he's predicted 38 of the last 3 stock market crashes. I love that one. All right, let's keep going with Mark Cuban. Sorry.
you're in deeper trouble because you don't know if you're not the winner, then you've got problems. Now, what Claude is doing with Anthropic, in focusing on programming, that's not really a vertical per se, right? Because it can be used for everything. It's really process driven. And I think that's smart. Gemini has an advantage because Google search is Gemini, right? And so now when you do a search, it comes back with an AI response and it can sell ads around it. I don't know what Meta's going to do. I don't know what OpenAI is going to do when it's all said and done. And then you've got the bigger problem, like when you think about all these foundational models today and for the next few years, they are built on text and pictures, not really video. They don't know what's happening.
That's false. This is how out of the loop he is. That was true. They are all multimodal models. Gemini is using YouTube videos. I'm sure XAI is using FSD videos and other videos and videos posted to X. They're using a lot more. All of the LLM companies, the frontier model companies, know about this problem that he's talking about, and they're all grabbing as much data as they can, as many contexts as they can, to train their AIs on as much as they can. They are not just training on text.
They don't know what's happening in the real world. And so when you think about all these people spending all this money, look, if you're the best programming, like Claude is, and that's your niche, great. But
so that's all we got from Mark Cuban. We're going to move on in a minute, but let me just 144 asked, how long before robotaxi passes 100,000 rides a day? That's not the metric I use or the standard I use, but I use something close to that. My theory is that when there are 10,000 robotaxis working 8 hours a day on average, that's in the ballpark of your 100,000 rides a day, right? Because if they do 10 rides in 8 hours, you're there. They probably do more than 10 rides a day, and 10 rides a day. That gets you there. So that's I think that happens by the end of this year, but we don't learn it until first quarter of next year. And it could easily get pushed off 3 to 6 months. Could happen before too. But I think my prediction is that they cross 10,000 robotaxis and use 10,000 unsupervised, no human in the car robotaxis running 8 hours a day in Q4. Maybe it's December, maybe it's October, and that's a guess. It could easily get pushed to January, February, March. It could get pushed later. So that's my take on that. And by the way, that relates to my options purchase. I don't have a thumbnail for this, but if you are a YouTube channel member, an X subscriber, or a Patreon supporter, you get access to my supporter only videos where I'm talking about options. I have this whole kick on long-term options. I have a new metric, and I'm using that metric to analyze these companies. And I've got 8 companies, seven companies I focus on the options because ASML doesn't have 2-year options. And it's really striking how this metric helps you think about long-term options and long-term investing in general. What does it say about AMD? What does it say about Google? What does it say about Nvidia, TSMC? Like the standouts in this analysis are AMD, Nvidia, Google, and TSMC, and maybe Palantir. They stand out on this metric, either a good way or a bad way. Big Grok question, is that girl AI or real? Or is she a scammer? Girl AI, if you mean the Ani companion, I don't know if that's what you mean. Ani is not, it's like partly AI. If I understand correctly, it's not real-time video generation. It's more like there's some basic moves that she can do. There's some movement that she can do. The text is AI. What she says, the words that she says are AI, but the movement of the avatar, whatever you want to call it, the companion, is not true real-time video generation. It's limited. Last year, Grok has special tools that can analyze videos to determine if they appear to be AI fakes. Just ask it. Nearly all the robotaxi crash are low-velocity fender benders. So refreshing to see you post about Figure AI. It's always amazing. Oh, Figure AI is coming. I'm going to talk more about Figure AI. Let's get to that. Let's get to Figure AI. It's coming. Let's talk about the AI stocks first. This is the AI stocks report channel, and I decided to to push the AI stocks part later in the video for Sunday Live. So for the week, the AI stocks report index is down 2%. It's still up 6.3% from where we started on April 30th when I created the index. This is not an official index. This is Warren's index. Take it for what it's worth. Palantir was up on the week. Google was up on the week. The rest of the stocks were down. AMD was down a lot. Don't forget, AMD was up a lot before it was down a lot. If you're not familiar with the stocks, I'll just go through them. AMD, well, Palantir, I think most people know, is a company that provides primarily services to government and growing and providing services to corporation, helping them use AI to do what they do better, particularly U.S. military. Google, everybody knows Google is Google Search, but it's also Google Gemini, frontier model, Google the hyperscaler with data centers, Google DeepMind doing amazing stuff. I think the most interesting of the companies on the list. And Elon says Google's going to win the West. TSMC is a chip fab company, the dominant player in that market. AVGO is Broadcom. Broadcom is a chip maker and a networking hardware maker. They are partnered especially with Google and some of the other hyperscalers in making advanced AI chips. Custom ASICs, they're called. And Broadcom makes some kind of networking hardware that's really important. I'm going to be doing a deep dive on all these companies one at a time, and I'll learn more about it. But AVGO, Broadcom makes this key networking hardware for the scale AI, all the AI chips, the AI servers, whatever. Nvidia, pretty much everybody knows, the largest company in the world, basically a chip designer, GPU designer, but very large, doing a lot of interesting things. They're helping build the data centers, and they're doing stuff with robotics and other things. Tesla needs no introduction. ASML is a company that makes lithography machines that go in chip fabs. That TSMC's chip fab and Samsung's chip fab, everybody needs. They are essentially a monopoly, a Dutch company, a monopoly. And AMD is another chip design company, very similar to Nvidia, but a lot smaller. So those were the results this week for those companies. A brief news update. So OpenAI announced a reorganization. Greg Brockman has officially assumed permanent leadership of product strategy in addition to AI infrastructure. ChatGPT Codex and developer AI APIs are consolidating into one unified team experience to accelerate toward an agentic super app for consumer and enterprise. I use Codex and ChatGPT quite a bit. I don't think I use their APIs. I use Grok's API for coding. I don't need to use their APIs because Codex has a better UX without using the APIs. Formalizes interim duties while CEO of AGI deployment. Fiji Simo remains on medical leave. And then Google I/O is coming in 3 days, 2 days, 2 days. Google AI is a big conference where Google's going to talk about their advanced with Gemini, their agentic tools, Android, Chrome, AI integrations. There's a new laptop that they're coming out with that may or may not be a big deal. The figure live stream is not insane. The figure live stream is boring as hell. Okay. So, an analyst update. I got 2 analyst updates. TD Cowen raised their price target on Broadcom, lifted the price target. Let's just go back really quick. Broadcom is trading at $425 a share. So, they raised their price target from $405, below the current price. Little late there, boys, to $500. Focus on custom AI accelerators and networking strength as key enablers for large-scale GPU clusters. Ties into broader AI infrastructure tailwinds. So this is, when you get a positive analyst report, it often helps the stock. Sometimes it doesn't matter. Google also had its price target raised. Let's see. Google's trading at $393 a share. So Oppenheimer, another big analyst firm, Jason Helfstein, raised the price from $425 to $445, maintain outperform rating driven by higher Google Cloud Platform estimates and continued capacity unlocks expected through the rest of 2026. Highlights Alphabet positioning in the AI race via Gemini advancements and cloud growth. So he's giving it more credit as a hyperscaler, being a data center provider than on the foundation model. And I'll just say myself, I find Gemini is clearly the worst of the frontier models in my own use. I think there are use cases where it's strong. In my own use cases, I've been particularly disappointed with Gemini. I'm hoping it gets better. I think the AI team at Google is first class with Demis Hassabis and a bunch of other great people, but somehow they're not performing on coding. Their chatbot is not that impressive. It refuses to answer sometimes. It's built into I'm a YouTuber, and YouTube has a thing called YouTube Studio, and you can look at your analytics and you can ask Gemini questions. You can ask Gemini questions in YouTube. And like today, it refused to answer something. Like it's just like, oh no, I can't give medical advice. I didn't ask you for medical advice. It's just I find Gemini very frustrating. But that's what bots are supposed to do, replace boring and repetitive jobs. No, false. We're going to talk about that. That's coming very quickly. That is not true. That is not what humanoid bots are for. That is a massive understatement what humanoid bots are for. And like I'm almost angry at reading that. Okay. Um, before we dive into Figure, which is next, there's always people just crapping on Tesla in different ways. So Trend Spider says if you bought $10,000 in Tesla in November 2021, you'd currently have $10,186.80. So he's picking that first peak at the far left of the graph. He's picking the first peak. Uh-huh. Well, I did the math. If you noticed, this is the 5-year chart. Tesla's up 115% in the past 5 years. You know, you picked like a random peak and oh, it's not up that much from the peak from 3.5 years ago. Who cares? So if you bought $10,000 in Tesla stock in January 2023, the bottom that I'm showing here, you'd currently have $37,345 in Tesla. Anybody can cherry pick. Anybody can cherry pick. But if you did something more sensible, if you said, let's go the last 5 years, if you dollar cost averaged $40 a week into Tesla through fractional shares, you'd invest $10,440 total, and you'd have $17,448, up 67% over an average of 2.5 years, because you bought over 5 years. So half the money was invested in the last 2.5 years, and half was invested before. So thank you, Rob. So, you know, I just wanted to point this out because you're going to see people, and I can't tell you how many people said, oh, Tesla hasn't done that much in the last 5 years. 115%. It's more than doubled in the last 5 years. That's pretty good. Yeah, you could have made a better investment somewhere else. Something else could have grown. Did you know that 5 years ago? If you knew that 5 years ago, why didn't you invest in that then? It's more than double in 5 years. Stop saying it hasn't done anything in 5 years. It's more than double in 5 years. It's been up in town. It's a highly volatile stock. Come see the volatility inherent in the system. Monty Python bit. Okay. So let's get into Figure AI. So Brett Fraudcock, his name is Brett Adcock. Brett Adcock is the founder CEO of Figure AI, which is the company that is making, at least purportedly making humanoid robots. In the past, he was the founder of Archer Aviation, which debuted on public markets through a SPAC at $9.90 a share, something like that. And 5 years later is trading at like $6 a share and dipped very low along the way. And as far as we know, we don't know for sure what happened, but as far as we know, Fraudcock sold out, made tens of millions of dollars, maybe $100 million on Archer Aviation, which is still not selling products to customers 5 years later. But he made money, and his early investors made money. And now he's got Figure AI. So what did he learn from that experience? Well, if I get a lot of publicity for my company and I get people to buy stock early and we're able to build it up and build it up and build it up and eventually go public through an IPO or a SPAC merger, then I can make even more money. And he is on paper a billionaire right now because of his ownership. I think Figure AI he owns 50% of Figure AI and it's got a $39 billion valuation. And they've never sold the product meaningfully. They haven't sold meaningfully a product to a customer yet. So there's this video that somebody mentioned earlier of them live streaming the bot doing some mindless, useless task that some other more sensible automated machine could do. And a human probably wasn't doing that job in the first place. Other factories have fully automated systems doing the job that they showed it doing. It's a stunt. It's a demo. So he says its job is to be a general purpose robot. We didn't build it to solve this use case. We built it to solve all use cases. Okay. Then he makes his explanation of what it's doing. So he's telling obvious lies. If the job is to be a general purpose robot, then why have it spend so many hours doing an unnecessary task on camera? And if you haven't watched this closely, there's this moment where the bot goes like this. That's completely unrelated to the task at hand. And his excuse for it on another moment doesn't make sense in this moment. And for a lot of people, it's like, oh, the bot is reaching up for its VR headset because it's being teleoperated. And he denies it's being teleoperated. And so many people are like, oh, no, it's not being teleoperated. How do you know? You know, some of my friends are like, oh, it's not being teleoperated because Brett Fraudcock says so. I mean, Trevor Milton's running a truck downhill and you believe in that. Nikola truck goes downhill. And I see this. I've seen it with Lucid Motors. I love Rivian, but I feel the same about Rivian at this point. Aptera, I fell for Akamoto a little bit, not too hard. You see something and it sounds good. It's a good story. You see the people and they seem like nice people and you want to believe in them. But are you really using critical thinking? And to me, they're not using critical thinking. So to me, Figure has no hope of achieving general real world intelligence in their robot. The scale of compute, what are we even talking about? We're talking about AI, right? You need a lot of compute. You need a lot of data. How do you get a lot of data? You build a lot of robots. Not 10, not 350. How many cars on the road does Tesla have to train FSD? Millions. And robots are much harder than cars. Robots, a general purpose robot is a much, much harder training challenge than driving on two-dimensional roads. You have to navigate more complex spaces and you have to manipulate objects. Much harder problem. Much harder problem than the cars. Tesla needs millions of cars and massive AI training clusters, and they still haven't solved FSD fully yet, right? And this guy says, oh, we're just going to build a general purpose robot. Where's your compute? How many robots are you going to build? How are you going to get there? They raised about $1 billion in capital, maybe $1.5 billion. It's not enough. That's not enough to get you there. The purpose of the demo is to increase funding from suckers to an eventual IPO or SPAC merger to enrich Fraudcock and his early investors and leaving the public holding the bag like they did with Archer Aviation. Zero account. Nobody's held them account. You look at the history of Archer Aviation, no one's holding him accountable. No one's holding him accountable for what he did with Archer Aviation. It's just shocking to me. I mean, I am. Nobody else is. And my friend CERN, and I love CERN Basher. Just to be clear, I love CERN Basher. CERN and I are identical twin cousins. We agree almost all the time, and we don't agree on this one. And he said I have ADS, Adcock derangement syndrome. No, it's FDS, Fraudcock derangement syndrome. I don't think I have Adcock derangement syndrome. I'm not on X 24/7 bashing Adcock. I'm not calling him, he hasn't landed a rocket and I said he didn't do it, right? He hasn't done the things that Elon has done. He hasn't done the thing that Trump has done, right? What has Fraudcock accomplished before this? Nothing. He's built investors out of money before with Archer Aviation. Sure. He fooled some people into buying his company Vettery before that. What happened to Vettery? What customers is that serving now? No. He knows how to play the game. So now here's an interesting point. Both Brett Fraudcock, Adcock, and the Figure company account blocked me on X. Why? Is that what you'd expect from a transparent company to block its critics? And, Lucid and Aptera have not blocked me. I have made 58 videos on YouTube calling Lucid a fraud and a scam. They haven't blocked me. I called these. He says, because you repeatedly called him names and associated him with Trevor Milton. I've called the CEO of Lucid Motors Fraudlinson multiple, I think it's at least 4 times on X. And I have compared him to Trevor Milton. And he hasn't blocked me. And I've called Aptera a scam and a fraud, and they haven't blocked me. So why is Figure? And I'm not taking it personally. I'm not hurt. I can still see their posts. I just think it's hilarious. It's funny. There's a little glitch on X that I can't see the video live. I can still see the video. For some reason, I can see it in some contexts and not others, but I can't see it because I'm blocked. And, I have another account I can see stuff through, and it's on YouTube, and I can see it on YouTube. I'm not interested in watching a long-running video of a robot moving packages. So my opinion, CERN, and I love CERN, and I think CERN is great most of the time. He's not applying critical thinking to Figure. My guess, and I'm sorry if this is hurtful to CERN, but I think he's defending them because he's allowed himself to believe in them emotionally and maybe financially. Maybe he's invested in them. I haven't invested in them. I did invest in Arcimoto, and I don't think it swayed me as much as you might think. Um, and I'm of course heavily invested in Tesla, and I see criticism of Tesla, and I don't freak out about it. I don't think I have Adcock derangement. My point is about the Adcock derangement syndrome. It's like, really, do I bash Brett Fraudcock? I call him Fraudcock. I have reasons for it. But look up Archer Aviation yourself. What's the stock trading at? What did it? What did it? It came in a SPAC merger. What do you guys think of SPAC mergers? How much money did investors lose on his company? And how much money did he make? And what products have they delivered to customers? How long are they taking to deliver on what they claimed they were going to do? So, sorry, here we go. Let me go back up in the chat here. Pump and dump. I don't know if it's illegal. I'm not saying that. Um ah, what happened? Are we still here? We're still here. Oh my god, that's crazy. YouTube. Okay. Balmik Shah from India living in Dubai coming to tour to Thailand will be in Krabi May 24th and 25th. Can I meet you? Send me a DM on X or send me an email, wredlick@gmail.com. We'll try to meet up. Sure. If you're going to be in Krabi, sure. The Tesla Center near Montreal is crazy packed. Teslas are selling like hotcakes over here. Tesla was the #1 luxury brand in Thailand. I didn't screenshot that for the video today. R2 can save or sink Rivian, but all depends on how quickly they can ramp up. R2 doesn't have autonomy. Cars are, once robotaxi scales, all car sales are going to be irrelevant. We'll see if can they make R2 profitably. There's a whole bunch of problems with that. We'll see. I haven't looked at R2 that closely yet. Thank you, Regamble. Figure solved a much harder problem than FSD. They should be releasing a robotaxi in a few days. Exactly. Yeah. If Figure's so good, why don't they have self-driving cars? That's a much easier problem than a robot. That's a good point. Thank you, JM. Elon never built a pump and dump firm. Solar City was a disappointment. He rescued it. I think it was just that was a tough market. Figure does not have multi-million kilometers of driving data. Gas cars will become like horses in 10 to 20 years. Waiting for the second or third wave of robotaxis. Okay. So, I think we covered everything I wanted to cover. And we ran long, which is good. So I'm afraid it's my bedtime, and I want to thank everybody for watching. Again, if you are a YouTube channel member or a Patreon supporter or an X subscriber, you get access to my videos. You get early access to some of my videos, and you get exclusive access to my videos about long-term options. Good insight on long-term options with a metric that I've developed, and it's really good insight on long-term investing as well, on understanding these AI companies, and you can apply it to other companies. And I'm going to keep experimenting with this metric and look at these options in different ways and hope to help. Like I have this idea for a video I might do where I talk about some funky trades you can do, sort of like covered calls, but not. Sort of arbitraging, like which companies do you think are going to grow and which aren't, which are the best prices for options under those circumstances. That's an idea I might pursue. So, what's this 26th of July to 4th of September? What? My delivery is 6th of July. Oh, 26th of July. Good luck with it. What do I call my metric? Oh, that's a secret. That's a secret. You gotta pay. Wait, don't you know, Jim? I think Jim, you're a channel member. I think you know what it is called. I'm not revealing all the details about it, but that's something that if you're interested in long-term options, or if you're a long-term investor and you want to have an understanding of how options might help you understand long-term investing, I think it'll help. So thank you, Mark. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, B. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and channel members, etc. And we're gonna keep cranking out videos every day and live stream every week, and I might